I'm Dr. Michael Tebbe with Bright Start Chiropractic.
And I'm Katya Mosely with Spirit Gate Acupuncture and Wellness.
So I wanted to talk to Katya today about, things that we both learned along the ways to help you all out with, like morning sickness. We're specifically addressing pregnant women. So morning sickness, reflux, and constipation. Um, so why don't you just give us an intro of you know, thinking about Chinese medicine, its kind of approach to these things, and because this is stuff you see all the time with your clients, and like how Chinese medicine and acupuncture can help with all that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've been working with pregnant women for about 15 years now. And as an acupuncturist, as a nutritionist, as just a fertility coach as well, and acupuncture and herbal medicine are so helpful in getting pregnant and staying pregnant and in really enjoying your pregnancy. And we were just talking about some of the challenges, especially first trimester challenges, that can really interfere with some of that joy. Morning sickness is one of the ones, and constipation and reflux, all of those just come up so often. And it varies. Some people have a very easy first trimester, and it's really towards the tail end of pregnancy that a lot of these things start to come up and disturb the body. I find that the more regulated and the more harmonious your body is prior to pregnancy, the stronger you'll feel throughout your pregnancy. And so I work a lot with women on what I call the zero trimester, that space prior to conception where you know that this is something that you're ready for and that you're calling in, and how can you prepare your body so that you have an abundance of qi. Qi is that life force that all acupuncture is centered around. It's no better to have too much than it is to have too little. You really just want enough so that all of your organ systems and all of your different various energy centers are uniformly nourished with this life-giving energy that will help you to digest with ease, sleep with ease, conceive with ease. So that's a big part of what I do in that zero trimester. But did you have any specific places you wanted to start?
Yeah. So I think like with morning sickness, so a midwife that I've worked with, like one of the things she really recommended was just kind of like sipping on protein shake all day, like even just having it by the bedstand at night, so you're never too full, never empty stomach either, just kind of maintaining just a little bit of food in there all the time. And then there's also like these, it's like a hypertonic solution, these little glass things called quinton. Like 3 of those in the morning, probably just to help with like hydration and stuff too. And vitamin B6 shots, but that's not necessarily something that everybody has access to. So I was just kind of curious on your take. What do you tell people from like a nutrition standpoint and stuff to help with morning sickness?
Yeah, I support all of those recommendations as well. But just in general, Chinese medicine views morning sickness as a rebelliousness of the qi. So every organ system has a direction that qi is meant to flow down or up or through. It's really easy to imagine with the lungs, for example. You're meant to take that breath in and down, and when the body is getting what it needs, that's a very smooth cycle. But when you're hiccuping or coughing or sneezing, that's considered a rebelliousness of the lung qi. It comes up. And similarly with digestion, we're meant to take the food in and metabolize it, absorb it, and then eliminate it in a process that runs down and out very literally through our bodies. And when that system is interrupted, we can have a rebelliousness where that like nausea or vomiting can send the qi instead of down but back up.
Okay.
And it's all a sign of the body just being really burdened. Obviously, every pregnancy is a blessing and something that a lot of women try very, very hard to create within themselves. But that said, it is very taxing on the body, and the babies will always get exactly what they need. It will like leach calcium from your teeth, and it will, take qi from every available source in your body. And so often the energy is going to the baby, to the uterus, to the reproductive organs, and it just doesn't leave enough for all the other like very mundane processes that our bodies are used to have enough for. I compare it a lot. Sometimes something we can all relate to is probably after Thanksgiving, after that meal,
Yeah.
like all of our blood is rushing to our digestion because we've all like eaten probably like heavier, richer foods or maybe more
Yeah.
of those foods than usual. It's usually not a time that you want to like kick back and solve like complicated math problems or really like use your
Nope.
brain. All the blood is like rushing to your abdomen so that it can help you digest. Well, throughout your entire pregnancy, that's where your blood and chi are going. And so trying to just be very gentle with what you put in your body can usually result in having more of that digestive chi available so that the instances of nausea, vomiting, that rebellious stomach chi that I talked about, that's not going to be as big of an issue because you're not burdening your body with as much of that like demanding need to digest very difficult foods or to.
So difficult foods could be like more raw food.
Right. Yeah. Thank
Heavy
you for
steak.
clarifying. Yeah. Rich foods, raw foods. In Chinese medicine, we have this concept of cold food. So cold extends to that literal concept of like cold temperature, but also extends to raw because our bodies are generally at about 98 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And when we put in an ice cold smoothie or cold pressed juice or a cold acai bowl or all of these things that are very healthy, but they are also very challenging to digest because we have to use all of our internal chi to kind of warm them up so much so that you're not feeling that like cold shock to the system as those cold icy foods are introduced.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes I tell my patients like the more bland, the more neutral, the more warm the foods are that you put in your body, the easier they'll be to digest, and then the less likely you'll be in that chi deficient state to create nausea and vomiting.
I mean, I know certain like beans tend to be warming, like easier to digest.
Mm-hmm.
Mung beans, stuff like that.
Yeah, I say, think of what you're going to feed your newborn baby.
Okay.
Right? That baby wants like sweet potatoes. That baby wants maybe, a rice congee or just things that are so easy to digest. Avocado, those like first foods. A lot of root vegetables, whether it's turnips or carrots or sweet potatoes, maybe, boiled and mashed or things like that.
Beets,
really nutritious foods, but foods that if a baby can digest with ease, you probably can as well. So when a patient of mine comes in, obviously we will be doing acupuncture as well, and there's a lot of really helpful points for that. We sometimes do ear seeds. We sometimes do just other things that can be helpful in the office.
Yeah.
But in terms of recommendations that you could take home with you, I would say, warming beverages, ginger teas, bone broths, all of those helpful, like warming, nutritious
adding turmeric to food, like turmeric spice.
Yeah, I say a lot of times, if it's something that you would cook with in the winter months or around Thanksgiving, like the nutmeg, ginger, cardamom, cinnamon, those are all really warming spices, and you would want to maybe add those to your diet when you're trying to kind of ward off nausea. And like the midwife that you referenced said, it's really important to get ahead of it, right? So if you wake up and you have a couple bites of something or a couple sips of something, it's going to be easier to manage than if you wait until you experience that nausea, if you've already vomited, to kind of back off from that. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
One other thing I'll add, and maybe some of your viewers are already familiar with this point, that is between the two veins that run in your wrist. A lot of times I see people wearing those C-bands where there's like some pressure put between the veins. You basically take your 3 fingers from the crease of your wrist and where those fingers land, and it might be different for everybody based on the size of your wrist and your fingers, but that is where that point is. And just connecting with yourself, taking a couple deep breaths, and then applying pressure on this spot can make a big difference as well. And those C-bands, I find that they're effective about 50% of the time. So while I don't think they work for everybody in every situation, they do have a pretty good success rate.
Are you saying the veins or the tendons?
Oh, sorry, the tendons.
Yeah, so those are the tendons that you have right there. Which you'll feel easily.
Yeah, you can see them, you can feel them. You're surrounded by a lot of
so just come in like 3 fingers from the fold of the wrist and then just apply gentle pressure there and take some easy breathing.
Yeah. Maybe bookend the day with with that ritual
Okay.
as you learn of your pregnancy.
Yeah. So a lot of times when I see pregnant women for like reflux, I'm kind of looking at it from a postural standpoint, and as the pregnancy grows, the belly starts to stick out more. So then the back of the body here starts to get kind of collapsed and really tense. So then the diaphragm, the main breathing muscle, which the esophagus passes through, is not able to move properly, and already baby's like pushing on the diaphragm, making less space. So because the diaphragm helps to close off the esophagus, things coming back up, that rebellious chi can help stay where it should be. Uh, so yeah, I mean, having people, like I'll show the partner how to do some stuff with like a massage gun on the back of the ribs there, kind of going from inside the spine to the outside to help release some of that tension, so that they can have a better posture through the rib cage and pelvis, that they're more aligned instead of being like this being the belly. How about is it similar with?
Very similar. Well, clearly he's an expert, so see him for the reflux. With Chinese medicine, the approach is really the same. We would talk a lot about portion size,
Okay.
the different kinds of foods that can exacerbate reflux, how late at night you're eating. I mean, so much of it is manageable with lifestyle changes and choices. And then I would recommend the same acupuncture point.
Okay.
This is a really powerful one along the pericardium channel, and just kind of holding that and breathing and really visualizing that energy coming down, because we're still talking about the digestive tract, and we're still talking about digestive chi, and when it is in short supply, when it's a little bit deficient, because so much of that energy is going to the baby. So how can you really connect with yourself and breathe that chi back down and nourish yourself with all the various food recommendations that I've made? It's as important to incorporate the foods that are going to be really easy to digest and nutritious as it is to avoid the things that would be difficult to digest. So we had talked about the cold foods, but also to that I would add processed foods, dairy, gluten, inflammatory foods, and also just eating late at night, having smaller portions, that can really alleviate some of that reflux.
Yeah. Okay. And it sounds like some of what you're talking about, and just envisioning kind of the energy moving back down, it's like also just taking that time to just slow down, because our day-to-day life and living in Los Angeles tends to be busy, so as is most people's, just taking some time to calm down too will help settle down your energy system, so that it's not like kicking back up.
Yes.
In terms of reflux.
In terms of reflux, but even just extending that as we think about digestion.
Yeah.
It's one circuit that goes from the food, the choices that you make for when and how much to eat and what to eat, but also extending all the way through to that elimination that's so important and can sometimes be tricky to regulate in pregnancy because progesterone levels are so high.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about slowing down and breathing, I would extend that to really breathing that chi down, because that's going to help with your bowel movements. And the easier the foods that you introduce to your digestive system, the easier that whole process will flow. For constipation, which I see a lot of, I would say there's a different point that I would recommend putting pressure on, and that's along the large intestine channel. So the large intestine channel starts at the inside edge of the pointer finger, and it goes through this meaty muscle of your hand, and it goes all the way along the arm, up the neck, and culminates around the nose. But a point that's really powerful for elimination, that's safe to do in pregnancy, is along this ridge of the top of the forearm. So I would just kind of run your finger along this ridge, maybe ending where the crease of your elbow is, and wherever you feel a tenderness or a depression, or just a juicy part of your arm where your finger just kind of lands. For a lot of people, that's right up here.
Yeah.
The point that's called large intestine 10. And just putting some pressure on that while breathing, while slowing down. You could even do this when you're on the toilet and visualizing just energy traveling down and through you. So that can be really effective. I also, spend a lot of time talking to patients about how important it is to eat healthy fats. So that can also help
Yeah.
lubricate the intestines. I recommend a lot of nuts, a lot of seeds. All seeds are great. All nuts are great. But in Chinese medicine specifically, it's walnuts that can be very helpful
Okay.
to smooth out bowel movements. And so I would incorporate a couple walnuts into your breakfast or your snack or any meal, really. Drinking lots of water, tea, like we said, like the ginger tea, just the soothing, warming teas, and that
Yeah.
should hopefully
Makes sense.
keep our pregnant friends feeling really healthy.
Yeah. Since kind of my whole focus is on like movement as a chiropractor, like making sure pregnant women's bodies are moving as well as they can, so they can just be relaxed in their body and at ease and walk better. And I'll put this link in the video. Just doing some like gentle like twisting movements. So I made a video for prenatal movement, and just some gentle twisting movements can help kind of just get all those intestines to start moving around in there, and can help stimulate that process of elimination as well.
Do you get asked a lot? Because I remember being pregnant and always being told in my prenatal yoga classes or any of the other kind of movement classes that I was taking to be very careful around any kind of like twisting in pregnancy. Do you get asked that a lot, or how would you
Yeah.
respond to that?
So I think if you're just doing like gentle twisting, as a chiropractor, if you're gonna put somebody on like lay on the side of their body, which you call like a side posture adjustment, like they really advise us to keep the rib cage and the pelvis like together as much as possible.
Mhm.
You're not letting it twist, but that's an external force somebody's putting on you. But just doing some gentle, easy twists yourself, I found that one, it can help with elimination, but also with like the hip pain, that side of the hip pain that women experience from sleeping on their sides,
Mhm.
because all this like fascia, connective tissue that's holding their whole body together, because you're not moving the same way that you normally would. Like it just starts to get really stiff, and those gentle twists, especially before bed, can help get you a longer stretch of feeling comfortable being on your side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just being gentle with the twisting, not being aggressive with it, would be okay.
Yeah. In my practice, I recommend a lot of magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to really help on so many levels.
Yeah.
Before bed, it's helpful to take some magnesium to just calm the mind. Magnesium is considered a very, very gentle muscle relaxer, so that really helps with the intestines and the peristalsis as well. So
They could even do foot baths with like Epsom salt.
yeah,
Yeah.
or a full body bath.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great. So you all have some great tips there. Again, this is Katya with Spirit Gate Wellness.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Yes.
This was fun.
And I'm Dr. Michael Tebbe with Bright Start Chiropractic. All right, leave any comments below that you have any questions, and yeah, hopefully you really enjoyed the video. Take
Thank
care.
you.